Okay, Chris, if you'd like to kick us off.
All right. I just wanted to say, hey, everyone. I'm so glad you're with us. My name is Christopher Wilson. I am the Disparity Study Manager. I work for the state of Oregon. I work for you. And so I'm excited to be here and excited to be part of this process. I'm excited to really hear actions and your experience working with state government. And so that's the key to this, is we need to understand and need to hear your concerns, your complaints, and your suggestions. What things could you propose, recommendations that you can give us from your insight? And so I'm going to I'm going to stop there. I'm going to turn it over to BBC, and I just want to thank everyone for being here. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. And thank you all for joining us. My name is Samir Bawa. I'm a managing director with BBC Research and Consulting, and will be serving as the principal in charge of the Disparity Study and working closely with Betsy Sava, who's an associate with BBC, to ensure the study is conducted successfully and efficiently. So our objectives for the evening are threefold. First, I am going to go through a presentation that describes our study, our objectives, and high-level information about the methodology that we're using. During that time, I would really appreciate it if you muted your lines just to make sure that everyone can hear me clearly. And then if you could hold your questions after I'm done speaking, we'll have an opportunity for all of you to ask any questions that you might have. And then following that, we would love to open it up to collect any comments or insights that you have about working in the marketplace. The comments that you provide to us tonight or throughout the disparity study, we will treat confidentially. We'll include the information in the evidence that we gather for the state, but we will scrub it clean of any identifying information and focus only on the content as it relates to some of our key research objectives. So to start, I want to very quickly introduce you to our project team. So the project team is made up of 6 firms led by BBC. We are a diversity and economic research firm based in Denver, Colorado, and we've been conducting disparity studies since 1989. Since that time, we've conducted studies for more than 140 organizations across the country, including states, cities, universities, transportation organizations, and a variety of other organizations as well. We're joined on the project team by 5 supremely qualified sub-consultants who we're very happy to have on the team as well. Many of them are joining us on the call here tonight. One of those is Rosales Law Partners based in San Francisco, California, and we have Greg Culling from RLP joining us tonight.
Hi, we are happy to be a part of this. I'm also actually a Oregon resident, and we have Rosales Law Partners has worked with BBC in the past, and we're happy to be here. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Greg. And RLP will be serving as our lead legal consultant on the study, weighing in on legal issues related to disparity studies, as well as disadvantaged business programs. We also have AB Cultural Drivers on our project team. They're based in Portland, Oregon, and we have Sergio Salazar joining us from AB Cultural Drivers.
Good night, everyone. I'm Sergio Salazar. I work at AB Cultural Drivers. I'm sorry for the noise. I have to step out of the place where I was because it was really, really loud. I work with my partner, Chisnella Reyes. She's a director, and we are in charge of part of the engagement part of the community with a research and evaluation firm based in Portland. So it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Thanks, Sergio. The project team also includes GCAP Services out of Costa Mesa, California. Ed Salcedo is the president of GCAP. He's here with us tonight and has worked with BBC for, more than 15 years and many, many disparity studies, particularly in the western part of the United States. Ed?
Thank you, Samir, and good evening, everyone. Just happy to be here and happy to be part of this study. As Samir mentioned, we have worked with BBC on numerous studies, and and our team is looking forward to assisting BBC with the policy reviews and recommendations on the study. Samir?
Thanks, Ed. And I just realized Ed's actually been working with BBC longer than I've been with BBC, so that's something noteworthy. We also have MBCB out of Portland, Oregon on the project team. Steve Johnson, who is the president of MBCB, isn't able to be with us here tonight, but they'll also be serving in a community engagement role on the project, helping us conduct in-depth interviews and collecting other anecdotal evidence as part of the disparity study process. And then Davis Research, a longtime BBC research partner out of Calabasas, California, will serve as our survey fieldwork expert on the project. Davis will be taking the lead on conducting surveys with business owners throughout the state, which will serve as the basis for our availability analysis and our utilization analysis. Next slide, please. The primary or the different ways in which the state anticipates using the disparity study will help it to understand the degree to which POC, women, and veteran-owned businesses face any barriers throughout the marketplace, as well as specifically in the state's contracting and procurement processes. We will assess that information and then provide recommendations to help the state develop programs and policies to help address any barriers that we observe and build programs to better encourage the participation of those businesses moving forward, including the possible use of race and gender-based programs. So the disparity study will provide a great deal of information that not only would help the state assess whether those programs are warranted as part of its contracting or procurement, but also help them make decisions about how to implement such programs effectively and in a legally defensible manner. The study itself will include various analyses that at their core are designed to assess the degree to which POC, women, and veteran-owned businesses have participated in state contracts and procurements during our study period relative to their availability for that work, and then assessing whether any differences or disparities exist between actual participation of those businesses and the availability we estimate in the marketplace. And I'll unpack all of those terms in just a couple of minutes. The study will also include extensive analyses of conditions in the local marketplace to help assess and identify any barriers that people of color, women, veterans, and the businesses they own are facing throughout Oregon to help determine whether any of those barriers make it more difficult for them to compete for and ultimately perform work for the state of Oregon. We'll also collect a great deal of anecdotal evidence as part of the process to help augment some of our quantitative analyses and breathe life into some of the cold, hard numbers that we collect and analyze as part of the process. And then we'll gather all that information and, as I said earlier, help or develop recommendations to help the state understand the magnitude of the barriers that those businesses face in the marketplace and how best to address those barriers as part of its contracting and procurement moving forward. The study itself is made up of a large collection of both quantitative and qualitative project tasks. I'm going to focus in on 4 of those tasks in the spirit of brevity, what we consider the core of the disparity study, which includes our community engagement efforts, and then the utilization, availability, and disparity analyses. Beginning with community engagement, one of the key objectives of any of our disparity studies is to work closely with our sub-consultants to make extensive efforts to engage meaningfully with business owners and stakeholders throughout the disparity study process. And through our community engagement efforts, we want to achieve 4 objectives. One, we want to inform business owners and stakeholders of the study, including our project objectives, what they can expect to result from the study in terms of our analyses, and how they can use that information to better engage with the state moving forward. We also want to engage directly with the community so that we can understand the barriers that they might have faced in contracting and procurement throughout Oregon, and then specifically with the state of Oregon and state agencies. We want to build consensus around the study's objectives, as well as the state of Oregon's supplier diversity objectives. And then finally, and most importantly, we want to listen very closely to business owners and stakeholders who participate in various disparity study tasks, so we can understand the barriers they're facing and ultimately quantify those barriers so the state can begin building programs to help address some of the difficulties and challenges that might exist in the marketplace, and particularly as part of its own contracting and procurement processes. We use various measures to meet those objectives. We categorize those as first as informational efforts, so a variety of efforts that are designed to provide information about the disparity study. That includes a web page that we've developed in conjunction with the state. It lives on the Department of Administrative Services website. It provides information about the study itself, the project team, as well as key upcoming events. So the community knows when they're coming up and can participate as appropriate. We also have an email address that you can where you can contact us directly. That email address is OregonDisparity@bbcresearch.com. If you have any questions or any comments that you'd like to share about your experiences working in the marketplace, or questions about the disparity study, you can email us directly at OregonDisparity@bbcresearch.com. Betsy and I check that email address on a regular basis, so we will be very quick with our responses should you have questions or at least confirmation if you submit any comments or insights. We will also be developing public notices in advance of key disparity study tasks, especially those tasks that business owners and stakeholders can participate in directly. That way, we are making sure that relevant stakeholders are aware of disparity study tasks before they actually occur and can participate so that we can hear directly from them. And then at the end of the process, we will be conducting final presentations so that we can summarize results from the disparity study and implications of those results for the state's contracting and procurement processes. We also have a number of engagement efforts as part of our community engagement plan. That includes different tasks that allow us to engage one-on-one or directly with stakeholders, business owners, and others who are involved in the contracting industries here in Oregon. So we've been conducting these stakeholder sessions this week. This is our 6th and final session. We've had a very good turnout throughout the process, lots of good comments and questions. So we're recording tonight's session so that folks can have access to this information as well. In addition, soon we'll be starting our survey processes, where we'll be conducting surveys with thousands of businesses throughout Oregon, and those surveys will serve as the basis for some of our key quantitative tasks, including our availability and utilization analyses. We'll also be conducting in-depth interviews with business owners throughout the state, so we can have one-on-one conversations about their experiences working in Oregon, some of the barriers that they might have faced, and their experiences specifically working or trying to work with the state of Oregon. And we'll also be conducting focus groups with trade association representatives so that we can collect similar information from them and understand what their members are experiencing working either with the state of Oregon or throughout the greater marketplace. One of our core quantitative analyses is called the utilization analysis, and it's designed to help us calculate the percentage of dollars that the state of Oregon and state agencies actually awarded to POC, woman, and veteran-owned businesses during our study period. The analysis is based on a combination of data that we're in the process of collecting directly from the state, as well as data that we'll collect from primary research we'll be conducting in the form of surveys with businesses throughout Oregon and outside of the state as well. So in terms of state data, at the beginning of the disparity study, we worked very closely with DAS and other departments to collect information on construction, professional services, non-professional services, and goods, contracts and procurements that state agencies awarded in our 5-year study period, which is July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2022. And we are in the process of compiling that information both on prime contracts and subcontracts. And once we've gone through that process, we're then going to go out in the field and conduct what we call utilization surveys with the businesses that actually performed that work. As part of those utilization surveys, we want to confirm basic information about each business that performed work on state contracts and procurements during the study period. That includes their primary lines of work, which will allow us to classify contracts and procurements appropriately. Information about the size of their business in terms of the number of their employees and their revenues, their status as veteran-owned businesses, and then the race, ethnicity, and gender of their owners. Now, it's important to note, as part of the utilization analysis, as well as subsequent disparity study analyses, we are interested in outcomes for POC, women, and veteran-owned businesses in general, and not just those businesses that have decided to become certified as, for example, MBEs, WBEs, or service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. So we want to understand the impacts of veteran status, race, ethnicity, and gender on contracting outcomes, regardless or independent of any sort of certification. So once we've collected all that information from surveys, we'll integrate it with the information we collect from the state, and then we'll be in position to calculate the percentage of dollars that the state actually awarded or spent with POC, women, and veteran-owned businesses during our study period. And we'll present those results overall, but we'll also disaggregate it in a number of different ways so that we'll have separate results for different contract sets and different vendor characteristics. Now, knowing that information on its own, that is the percentage of dollars the state actually awarded to those businesses during our study period, is important, but it becomes instructive in terms of some of the decisions the state can make in terms of its contract and procurement processes when we understand the availability of those businesses in the marketplace and can benchmark actual participation against estimated availability. So, we use what's called a custom census approach to measuring availability, and that starts with developing a phone book of businesses, of relevant businesses who or that do work that is directly relevant to how the state spends its contracting procurement dollars, and have a location within what's called the state's relevant geographic market area, which we anticipate to be the entire state of Oregon. Once we have developed that phone book, which we anticipate will include more than 10,000 businesses, we will then contact each and every one of those businesses multiple times to ask them to participate in what we call an availability survey with our firm. Availability surveys are quite different from the utilization surveys I described earlier, primarily in the fact that they're much longer, and we collect a lot more information from businesses as part of those, but also because we are trying to survey businesses, not just those that worked with the state during the study period, but actually businesses that could potentially be available for that work, regardless of whether they competed for it or have performed it in the past. So as part of those availability surveys, we'll ask each business about their primary lines of work, their capacity for actually competing for contracts. So what's the largest contract they're able to bid on or compete for, their roles as vendors, so they work as prime contractors, subcontractors, or both, the various regions within the state that they're able to serve customers, information about their business size, information about their interests in actually doing government work here in Oregon, their status as veteran-owned businesses, and then the race, ethnicity, and gender of their owners as well. Once we've completed that process, we will then compile a database where we can then go through a contract by contract matching process, so that for every contract and procurement that's included in our analysis, we can go to our database and calculate an estimate of the percentage of minority or of POC, woman, and veteran-owned businesses that are potentially available for that contract or procurement. We can then repeat that process for every contract and procurement included in our analyses, and then aggregate it in a dollar-weighted way. So what results is an estimate of the percentage of dollars we would expect the state to award to POC, woman, and veteran-owned businesses based on their availability for that work. And just like the utilization analysis, we will present those results overall, but also broken down by a number of different characteristics. So at the end of the availability analysis, we will now have a benchmark to compare actual participation against, both overall and for a variety of different firm and contracting characteristics. Once we've completed both the utilization and availability analyses, we'll then be in position to compare those measures. And that's the primary objective of the disparity analysis, to assess whether there are any differences between actual participation and estimated availability. We use a relatively straightforward calculation to compare those measures. So for a particular group, a particular business group, and a particular set of contracts, we take the dollars that that group was actually awarded according to our utilization analysis, divided by the dollars we would estimate them to be available for, times 100. And that results in what's called a disparity index or ratio. So a disparity index of 100 indicates that actual participation is largely in line with availability. Anything less than 100 indicates that that particular group for that set of contracts is underutilized relative to their availability. And then a disparity of 80 or less indicates substantial underutilization. So in other words, if a particular group for a particular set of contracts has actual participation that's 80% or less of the dollars we'd estimate them to be available for, that can be taken as substantial underutilization, or what's termed an inference of discrimination by the courts. And that information often serves as justification for an organization like the state to use relatively strong measures to help address resulting barriers. In the case of POC and woman-owned businesses, that could mean race or gender-based program measures or contracting goals, things of that nature. So we've got a lot of work to do as part of the disparity study, and we've scoped out all of that work to be conducted over the course of a year. So we kicked off the project in October of this year, where we participated in a series of project initiation meetings and data assessment meetings with the state so that we could establish lines of communication and start the process of collecting data on the contracts and procurements that the state awarded during our study period. We began working with our sub-consultants to implement our community engagement plan, and that will continue throughout the process and through next summer. We are already in the process of analyzing state data, both understanding the data that they've provided to us and very soon kicking off our survey processes, and our data analysis will continue through next summer as well. In the spring, we'll submit all of our data tables to the state for review so they can verify the information we're using before we conduct our core disparity study analyses. We'll then conduct those analyses and submit all draft report sections to the state for their review by the middle of next summer. And then based on any revisions, we'll submit a final report, and at the same time also facilitate final presentations so that we can discuss results and summarize implications of those results, both with state leadership and stakeholders, as well as the public. I want to thank you again for joining us here tonight. And now I want to